Hey all, this is video number 4 in our 5-part series about how to raise money as BRRRR investors from outside investors to contribute to your projects. My name is Adam Jason. I'm the founder of BRRRRinvest.com. In this video series, so far, we've talked about setting up our entities, what that should look like if we're going to be asking money from outside investors. We talked about a fundraising strategy if we're focusing on single assets, one multifamily property, one single family home, or setting things up as a fund structure. In our last video, we started talking about what are the financial terms, what are the things that investors are going to be looking for, how do you set yourself up so that it's worth your time and that you're making the money that you should for putting all this together for people. The things that we're talking about and raising money from outside investors, as I've said in the other videos, really for those people who are at the stage in their BRRRR investing process where they're not using their own cash anymore because they have too many projects or they're in need of outside capital. They're not working with the hard money lenders, private money lenders who may be charging fees that no longer work for them, and they're outside that traditional banking structure with traditional lenders like a Bank of America, for example, because they have too many properties or they can't get financing terms that work for them. So what they want to do is ask outside investors, other people they may know, for capital to come into their projects. I want to talk about today is actually what it means to solicit capital from investors and what are the practical and legal considerations around that. So by way of background, I'm a BRRRR investor myself. I've been investing in single family homes primarily for my own portfolio for the last 10 years. Professionally, I am a general counsel and head of legal for a real estate investment firm here based in Medellin, Colombia, after about 10 years in the US advising large public companies and investment banks on real estate transactions, but also how to solicit capital in the public and private markets. So on the NYSE, NASDAQ, all of those kind of things, and just have done tons of deals. I'm trying to bring that knowledge to you so that you can take that to your BRRRR investing, find investors, continue to scale your portfolios and grow. So using that background, I want to share kind of the practicalities and legalities around asking people for money. So let's start with the practical first. You're probably going to be in one of two scenarios. First, if you're asking for investors, they're either going to be people you know or people you don't know. The whole game changes when they're people that you don't know from a legal perspective. So if they're people you know, typically what we call friends and families, when we're talking about, in this investor space, the rules of the game are a lot more easy to comply with. Really when you're asking people for money and asking them to participate in your projects, your typical standard from a legal perspective is just going to be that you're not committing fraud, meaning you're not lying about the project and you're also not omitting important information that somebody would need to make an investment decision. I guess I'll pause real quick and just let you know that nothing I'm saying here is kind of formal legal advice. I just want to lay out for you what the general standards are and what people are thinking about as they dive into this world. Switching over to the scenario where you're going to be asking and looking for investors, people that you don't know. Maybe you are planning a marketing campaign, or you're going to tell a lot of people through an email list that you've built or on social media. That's really where you start getting into the legal world. And if you've read about this, you hear about 506C, 506B, private placement exemptions. What does all that mean? Basically, what the background for all this is the SEC and Congress has taken the position that for most people, unless you are at a certain net wealth or unless you have a certain level of annual income, they don't trust you to be able to invest in private deals. So they've limited your ability to do that, and they've limited the people who are offering those deals the chance to bring folks like that who don't meet those net income, those net worth requirements, the ability to bring them into their deals. They think that you can't what's called fend for yourself, And because of the relative illiquidity of these private markets and private real estate deals, they don't want people who are less sophisticated putting money into projects that they can then not get out, as compared to investing on the NYSE, where shares are freely tradable and people can make a bad decision and cut their losses earlier on in the process. So if you're in this world and you're going to be asking for capital from outside investors, you have to be thinking about SEC regulation and the kind of investors that you allow into your project. If you're going to be telling the world about the project that you're doing, you're going to be engaging in what's called general solicitation, which means that the only people that you can let into your project are going to be those who meet those income or net worth requirements that I mentioned. So, really somebody that's making at least $200,000 a year or has a net wealth of $1 million outside of their primary residence. These rules are changing a little bit, and that's just a high level of what they are, but it limits your investors. Now, that can be good if you know those folks. Obviously, if they put in larger sums of capital early, you don't have to raise $5,000-$10,000 at a time. They're typically also more sophisticated. If you go after the smaller guys, you could find yourself in a situation where $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to somebody means so much that it creates a lot of headaches for you. So if you have access to the bigger capital, obviously that's a good position to be in, and it'll help you along with the legal compliance, but also save you a lot of headaches and make your job a lot easier as you bring capital into your deals. If you're in this world of asking people you don't know for money, there's going to be compliance that you have to do, forms that you have to file to do things right. It's always good to obviously comply with all the requirements that are applicable to you. It brings credibility to the offering, lets you sleep easy at night knowing that you're doing things correctly and that things have been blessed by the right regulatory authorities. But the important thing to take away from this video is, if you're going to be doing this, there's kind of two directions you can go. Raise money from people not really a problem. You stay out of SEC world. Just make sure you're giving people the full and complete information about what they're investing in. If you're going to be doing that broad general solicitation we talked about, you're going to want to get some legal advice, make sure you're doing things correctly. I hope you guys are enjoying this series on how to raise capital as BRRRR investors. I want to do, when we're done here with this video series, a Q&A that allows us to have this conversation on a more intimate, personal basis. I only know that you're liking them if you subscribe or like the channel, so make sure you do that. If there's popular support for it, I'm happy to make myself available, spend the time with you guys answering any questions that you might have. Our next video is kind of going to be to bring it all together and talk about how do we manage the ongoing operations of these assets that we are presenting to investors and that they're investing in. So make sure you stay with me for that one. Like the channel, subscribe, and I'm excited to see you in video number 5. Take care. I'll see you soon.